Well, the paint has been drying for about a week on the frame now, so I'm going to start working on putting it together. The first things I got to do is get the little Dremel. I got a little paint overspray up in this collar where the steering. I'm going to put that in first and the tag back on. And you can see some overspray in there. I guess I should have taped it, but this had a burr and I needed to sand it. So I'm going to clean that out with the Dremel. Got this at Home Depot for the Dremel. I usually get these around the holidays. I worked for Home Depot for 8 years, so I kind of know when they put things on sale and when to look for certain things. Usually around the holidays these are pretty reasonable, but I'll show you what I use here. What I'm going to do to clean that out, I'm going to use one of these drums. It comes with all these sanding drums and the little hardware to put them on, so I'm going to throw that in the Dremel and just go up in there and just clean it out a little bit, just running around. And that's the little Dremel thing I'm going to use that I got in the estate sale a while back, and I put this little sanding drum on it. That burr is cleaned out of there. And I'll clean the paint out of the top and throw the races back in. The tag's back riveted back on, and there's glue on the back side of that. This was glued to the frame along with those little tiny rivets, so I did re-adhere it with some plastic emblem adhesive. Hopefully that holds. Does that show up in there? The race is in there. I got the other one all greased up, and I greased, you grease this edge here, grease this edge here. Then I found a socket that was the same size, and I can set it on there and tap it in. But one thing you got to be careful is you don't get your finger between the socket and that bearing. That's what happens if you do. Probably should start it with something a little bigger around, but it's pretty much all flush now. Sorry, the battery went dead on the camera and it just shut off, but the race is in, and I can turn it up on end here and shine the light in there, and you can see it's, well, I don't know if you can see it or not in the camera, but I can certainly see that it is seated in the bottom of where the race opening is, and the same with this one. So they're both installed. I put all the bearings around that race with thick gooey grease, and I greased all the way up here to keep that from rusting. Got a little grease in there, and put the bearings in the top end with the thick gooey grease. So now I can throw the triple tree back in. Videoing adds quite a bit of time to doing this because I keep getting my hands greasy and then can't work the buttons on the camera. Let's see, I put this knot in here. Then I'll wait and put the top on once I get ready to put the forks on, because that way, it won't be twisted out of alignment. that's together. I got to tighten the nut up here. I got a friend that has the special tool, and I'll borrow it. I guess it's not a huge hurry on getting that torque because it's going to be a while before I put the top piece on and the handlebars, and that can be torqued at any time, but it is together. Next, I think I'm going to start working on putting the engine in, and then the carburetor on and the airbox. I'm just going to assemble it from the inside out, because to get that airbox out, I had to take the inner fender out. To get that out, I had to take the wheel and whatnot off. And I just think it'd be easier to start assembling it from the inside out. I do need to buff a couple bolts yet. This one, I haven't done any buffing while the frame was waiting for paint, because I didn't want to get anything in the primer and cause a paint reaction. So now I can, in the rubber grommets for the side covers, I'll put them back in too. Set the engine in. Bolts just aren't in finger tight. Missing, I can't find that bolt there, so just a little hunting around and I'll find it. It's probably in a box somewhere, fell on the floor somewhere over there. I'll dig around and find it. I put the rubber grommets back in, the seat latch back on, the muffler mount back on. The foot pegs go back on when the engine mount, and like I say, this is all just finger tight, so that's why that's loose. But this bottom bolt that holds the bottom of the engine in is also what holds the foot pegs on. So it is looking really good. The bolt here is where that skid pan clips down in. I believe that's the one. If not, I'll switch them around, but that is the bolt for the skid pan. I took the chain sprocket guard off the engine so I wouldn't bugger it up. Putting the engine, setting the engine in there. So next I'll get the carburetor on and the airbox on. And when I find that one bolt and get all of them in place, and I'll snug up the engine then. So as you see, I put the carburetor on, the airbox. Looking good. I think we're going to call it a day. I tightened up all the engine mount bolts. I put the bottom bolt in there, and I found a bolt that fit that until I can come across the correct one. And I put the skid pan on, protect things. If I scratch that up, I can pop it off and repaint it. If I scratch this up, it's a little different story. So getting her together. Tomorrow I'll put the exhaust stuff on here, because that comes in from this side. I couldn't take it off with the wheel on. I had to take the wheel and suspension off to get the exhaust off. So the exhaust will go on next. The inner fender just slides in here. I'll clean that up and put that on. And then we'll get the rear suspension on. And put the front suspension on. I got to clean the front up. I'm going to change the fork seals. And I got to clean the wheel and all that stuff up yet too. Check the front brakes and whatnot. So anyway, I'm calling it a day. Hit the like button if you enjoyed my video. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.